I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited today to introduce you to Alana Larson, who owns Seamless Practice Solutions. And Alana, I'm excited to just do a deep dive into your career journey and learn about what it is that you do and why you do what you do. So, if you would be so kind to give us about a 90-second overview of the work that you do and why you're doing it, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you, Donna, for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to be here. What I do, I started a little under 2 years ago. I serve private practice owners in the United States. I serve them with administrative tasks, help them with onboarding their therapists, with creating training documents, and I just love the work that I do. And I'll circle back. I've been doing what I do for 4 years now, but I've been doing it on my own solo for around 2 years.
Okay, awesome. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to go private and do it on your own.
I attribute a lot of this to my friend and mentor, John Clark, who first introduced me to the industry 4 years ago. We connected on Indeed, of all places. I was a young mom with a 6 month old. I needed to find part time work to provide for myself and my family. We connected, and he literally trained me from the ground up. I have been hugely blessed to be exposed to both the private practice world. He owns both the private practice and a coaching business. So, with the exposure on both ends, he really encouraged me to spread my wings and start doing this on my own to build it into a full time career, which I have successfully to this day. And I owe a lot to him.
Okay, awesome. And I know this, but I don't think our audience is going to know this yet. When you talk about private practice, what type of practices are you speaking of?
Yes, so very specifically, it's niche mental health psychotherapy. People who are helping those who are hurting. I will be specific. I don't help practitioners who serve the acute afflictions, more like depression, anxiety. And just to clarify, too, I'm not a therapist or a counselor. I serve and provide administrative services to those folks.
Okay, that's awesome. And I have to say, I really admire that you have that specific niche because that means that you are learning all the ins and outs of all of the business frustrations that those types of practices have. And that probably makes you much more valuable.
Oh, 100%. I could speak to one of my favorite things to do is training, teaching, and onboarding our new counselors that we hire fresh out of college who are brand new with their associate's license coming into a practice. There's a lot of things they don't teach you in grad school that we're able to equip you with. Something that comes up quite often is when I'm working with practice owners who've been in the business for 20 years, there's a lot of things that they just know, and they're expecting these new folks to just know as well. But it's a different ball game. It's a different world we live in, now versus a decade, 20 years ago. So it's making sure they're equipped to hit the ground running to see clients successfully on day one.
That is so awesome. And I can relate to that too, because it's kind of like, in my world, I'm always talking the financial stuff and I
Hmm.
use a lot of that jargon. And then
Yep.
when I'm talking to laypersons, I have to remember, no, they don't speak this way. So I have to break it
Hmm.
down and have a different conversation. But I get that. So I would love for you to share with us, Alana, what do you see as the biggest problem in your industry right now, and how are you working to solve that?
Sure. So, I'll speak to employees and getting clients. So, there's two really big pressure points right now that all practice owners across the United States are facing. So, number one, we're experiencing a lot of high turnover. It is more profitable for employees once they are fully licensed, aka they can practice psychotherapy on their own without practicing underneath somebody else's license. They're usually more interested in going off on their own to make money. And a lot of those people, as good of an idea as it sounds, there's so much overhead costs. They're kind of set up for failure. But on the other end, with group practices, my goal in supporting the practice owner is ensuring the longevity of the employee so that when we're hiring them, we're not having this turnover that we're experiencing every 1 to 2 years. And how we're doing that is we're focusing on hiring people fresh out of grad school. That means that they have, and how it works in psychotherapy is they have to fulfill so many clinical hours. So we're getting people at the very start, which means that they stay with us longer, they build that rapport. I work with practice owners to figure out what's a good benefit package. Most people looking for employment, they're looking for 401ks with matching. And we come up with other different incentives to keep employees and to make them want to stick within the culture. And then the second pressure point I'll speak to is getting clients in the first place. And when I say clients, I do mean patients, folks who are struggling with mental health needs and need our practices services. Everybody has their own preferred method. I think it's important to tailor it to the practice, depending on the population you serve, depending on even the area that you live in and where you're offering the services will dictate where you need to market. Some people will say Google ads are the way to go. Other people's will say, no, you need to focus more on backlinks and SEO. And now I'm really diving into the internet jargon, but all that to say that it's not a one size fits all. What works in San Francisco is not going to work for the middle of Missouri or Arkansas for that matter. What works in New York City won't work in Hilo, Hawaii, just to kind of name a few contrasts and differences.
Wow, and that's fascinating to me because, and we all have to market ourselves. We all have to
Mm-hmm.
bring in clients, right? And to know there are so many different ways to do that, and to know that you're working with those different personalities and businesses and the
Mm-hmm.
types of clients that they're bringing in to customize, how they're actually marketing. That sounds empowering.
Very much so. It really comes down to tracking those requests for services, is what we call them in the biz, and tracking our conversion rates to see what's really working. Because you could spend, for example, thousands of dollars on Google Ads, and we'll get lots of requests for service, but they're not quality inquiries. They're not the people that we're supposed to be targeting. Maybe this private practice specializes in treating adults, but hold on, how come there's an ad for kids or couples? Well, no, we very specifically are seeing and treating people who are individual adults. So it's things like that that come up, that I try to
Interesting.
help with. Yeah.
Awesome. So I would love to know, what are some of the unique ways that you're helping others in this business?
Yeah. So because I've had the privilege to touch so many practices over the last 4 years, I've seen a lot of things that work and don't work. And I like to think of myself as the wall that these practice owners are bouncing their ideas off of. They'll say, hey, you have experience here. How did this work? And I'll kind of walk them through, we've tried this at 3 different practices. The practice owners wanted to try it, and this is what worked and what didn't work. And this is what I recommend that you would do. I'm never here to tell them you need to do this or you need to do that. I am here as a suggestion box to support them in achieving their mission.
Awesome. So I want to ask you a question about where you see the industry going in the next, 5 to 10 years. So you're unique because you're doing work virtually
Mm-hmm.
for people that they have a certain skill set, um, but they may not literally be true entrepreneurs or business owners.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you've got practitioners who are running a business, but then they really need somebody like you to help them figure out how to run it. But
Exactly.
that's what I'm thinking. But I'm curious to see how you see that changing over the next several years.
I don't expect it to change too much. Something that's changing the industry is the big moves that insurance companies are making. something that we're seeing happening more and more is they are buying out these giant group practices and converting them into insurance pay practices. I'll always say that if you can afford private pay is better, because it's going to be niche. Say you have for example, say you have a child who experienced severe trauma. Well, going to play therapy is not going to be good enough. They need to go to a trauma specialist, but not just a trauma specialist, somebody who specifically serves children who are going through and need to process the trauma they experience. And not always are you going to find somebody in network. It's better to go to an expert to get the help that your child needs and get them feeling better faster. Um, yeah, I don't see too much changing, but I'll speak to a comment that you made about how the practice owners are not really entrepreneurs at heart. I like to say, I'm here to do that nitty gritty work for you so you can do the work that gives you purpose and drives you. I love the administrative tasks. I love being able to help people. I'm helping you so you can help others. Because really, that's where their heart is at.
Yeah, and that gave me goosebumps literally. So yeah, that's what we all want, And I own my own business, but I love doing the work. I don't necessarily enjoy the business aspects of it. So I'm so grateful there are people like you. I would love for you to share with us what's the biggest challenge that you faced at to this point in your life, either personally or professionally, and how it's actually shaped how you're doing business.
Sure. My very first year in business, I had to figure out what it was that I do because up until that point, only served one practice owner. I wore many hats. I really needed to, I thought I had niched down, but I needed to niche down more. So I went through a learning curve. I learned how to price myself better. I'm used to speaking with patients or clients on the phone, sharing with them the services that therapists provide. It was a turn to have to sell myself to therapists as I was doing my free intro calls, explaining what it is and putting a value to the support that I offer. So there were so many hard lessons, but great ones that I learned in my first year of business. And I'm happy to say that I've really niched down. I think I've niched down as far as I can. Um, and I'll speak to that. I very specifically help therapists with perfecting their onboarding system, with how they hire and add employees, very specifically clinical employees, to their practice. And just kind of perfecting the intake process from the initial click on the website to getting them in front of the counselor.
That's so awesome too. So, and I love the fact we all think, we want to serve everybody, but we can't
Mm-hmm.
serve everybody, and we niche down, and then we find we can niche a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to that sweet spot, it really makes a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So, share this with me. If you could have lunch with any person, living or deceased, who would you choose to have lunch with and why?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's see. I think I would want to have lunch with my grandmother, my mom's mom. She passed away recently. I guess not too recent. It's been about 2 years, but she was a really big part of my life. She used to fly in from the islands. I'm part Hawaiian. My mom's from Hawaii. She would fly in every Christmas and play gin rummy with me and just tell me about the old days. And she spoke pidgin. And near the end, during her last years of life, she really couldn't speak good English. She was only speaking Hawaiian. And that was just really comforting. And I wish I could have just a little bit more time with her. She was such a really big part of my life. So,
That's awesome. And with your lovely flower, we can all see the
oh,
Hawaiian
yes.
in you for sure. So thank you for sharing
Mahalo.
that.
Oh, well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. So share with us now the best way for people to reach out to you if they're interested in learning about how they might work with you directly, or just to learn more about you and what you're doing. What's the best way for them to get you?
Yep. So the best way is to visit my website, seamlesspracticesolutions.com. And if you want to get in touch, the best way is by email to initiate the conversation. And that's going to be hello at seamlesspracticesolutions.com.
Easy enough. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for being such a great guest today. We're honored to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.